Hello and welcome again to the Lotus Guru here on YouTube. Right, we're up to part 4 now. What I'd like to be doing in part 4 is telling you what happened when I returned to Lotus in 2006, going right on to 2020. So we'll be looking at the things that I was doing and also what Lotus was up to as well. So we'll start in 2006. As you remember, when we left off in part 3, I just returned back from Australia, back to the UK and back to Hethel in early 2006. Now, what was I doing at Lotus in 2006? I started in the role as client liaison. Now, client liaison, for those who don't know, not many people would, I was a liaison between GM, General Motors, and Lotus for the parts supply for the VX220 and Opel Speedster. Yes, I was back with the old VX220. The job entailed me liaising with GM and getting all their parts orders for VX220 and Opel Speedster to be supplied to their warehouses in Luton and Russellsheim. Now, although the VX220 was out of production then, we was contracted to supply parts for 15 years from the start of production. So we had to make sure that we had enough supplies of Lotus manufacturers' parts to the GM network. Now, this role was based in the after sales department in Factory 1 at Hethel, and I was working with people that I'd worked with before I went to Australia, so it was good to get back with the old crowd again, and it was pretty good to be back. So things were going pretty well for me personally at Lotus. As I said, nice to be back. So what was Lotus up to in 2006? We launched the Elise S. Now, this variant of the Elise had the 1ZZ engine as opposed to the 2ZZ engine, and the difference between this engine and the 2ZZ engine was it didn't have the lift intelligent part on the engine. Also, it was only a 5-speed gearbox. This was a kind of entry-level Lotus if you look at it like that. Also introduced in 2006 was the Lotus Europa. Now, the Lotus Europa was at the time marketed by PR as business class by Lotus. It basically wasn't the best selling car that Lotus ever built. I think we only built about 400 of them. It was a kind of hybrid car if you look at it, between an Elise and a VX220. Used the GM powertrain. It wasn't a bad car, but it just wasn't a great car. If you sat inside it, you would think you were sitting inside an Elise. The later ones, the SEs, where they trimmed them out better wheels, bigger brakes, were much more desirable. Probably go down in Lotus's history as one of the not bad cars, but not a great car. There was also a few different variants of the Exige at the time, released during 2006, and here's some of them. So that's 2006 done. Right, we'll move on to 2007 now. I'm still doing the same kind of job, helping out within the technical department and warranty department as well. And I start assisting Paul Bing, who is now the technical training manager for Lotus cars. So I'm assisting him with putting the courses together, running the courses, making sure the guys are looked after, stuff like that. It was pretty interesting. It was pretty good to meet all the guys coming in from the dealer network. And Lotus released a few limited edition of the Elise in 2007, and these are them here. One of the biggest updates to the Elise in 2007, although it's for the 2008 model year, was the addition to the whole range of Elises and Exiges of twin airbags. This is the first time any market other than the US got twin airbags. It was now standard across the range. Also introduced was a start button, but it was only a start button, not a stop button. If you wanted to stop the car, you had to turn the key off. Also, we started using a new alarm system. We dropped Cobra and we went for a company called PFK, and they had a better alarm system fitted to previous Elises. And obviously, as there was some limited edition Elises, there was also some limited edition Exceeds, and here they are here. Now, something else that was released in 2007 was the Lotus 211. Now, this was a pretty radical car, as any of you that have driven one or seen one will know. It was based on the Exige S platform with a much lighter bodywork, no windscreen, no doors, no windows, no heater. In fact, pretty much not much of anything, but was it a hell of a car to drive. Something else introduced in 2007 was a new diagnostic system for the Elise and the Exige, but only with Toyota engines. Previously, we've been using the scan tool, the Scan 3, Lotus Scan 3, which was limited in its diagnostic capability. So we wanted to go to a CAN bus diagnostic system that was installed onto a laptop, which made it much more capable and able to diagnose more problems with the car. Not that the cars had many problems anyway, but we could read all the data much more easily. Now, this was done by a company called Omitech. I actually assisted in the launch of this to the dealer network, and I fielded any inquiries about the system at the time from the dealer network. Now, working with the guys from Omitech, later on in this story, our paths would cross again. At about this time, it was decided to move all the parts that were currently housed in Proton's warehouse in Bristol back to Hethel. Now, the only place that we had for it at the time was Factory 3. Now, Factory 3 had been empty for a while. It had been used for various projects. It was earmarked for the Esprit in the Danny Bahar days, but it was decided the building was too far gone for it to go into there. But after sales moved into there anyway. So all the parts came back from Bristol and was located into Factory 3, and the whole after sales department was located into an office on the mezzanine floor. I've got to say, Factory 3 was a bit of a, how can I put it politely, it was a bit of a shithole, but it served our purposes and we soon got it up and running without much disruption to the dealer network. So that's 2007 done with. Let's move in to 2008. Now, this was an interesting year for me. Paul Bing decided to move over to the sales department, so the role of technical trainer became vacant. I was asked whether I'd like to do this role, and of course I said yes, because I found it interesting to share the knowledge I had. I've got lots of years of experience by then, so it'd be nice to pass it on to the dealer techs within the dealer network. This would all be run out of Factory 3. I had a small training room, which was not too bad, no windows in it, so it was a little bit claustrophobic, and I sectioned off part of the warehouse in Factory 3 and made a workshop. It was good. There was no roof on the workshop. It was open to the rest of the what was a Second World War hangar. It was a bit noisy at times, but I think we did a pretty good job. We put a ramp in it, but the only limitation that I had, in my point of view, was the only car I had for training was an old 05 Elise that Paul Bing had built from spare parts. I must say that Lotus have never put a huge emphasis on training. Well, not in the time I was there anyway. It's all been very small scale operations with just one person running it, getting dealer technicians in and telling them what you know basically. There was never many resources. I never saw a budget, but we did what we could with what we had. Also in 2008, was my first overseas trip to run training. I was dispatched to Lotus Cars USA, that was based in Atlanta, Georgia at the time, to run a 2-week course at their headquarters. It was interesting meeting all the American technicians. The biggest barrier was, believe it or not, the language. Some of the words I used that they used were totally different. But we got through it and we had a good time. The rest of the year was taken up running courses for UK dealer techs, for dealers from Germany, France, Italy. So it was a busy year for me in 2008 and I enjoyed the training role. It was good to meet all the guys. And as well, I had all the technical support stuff, helping out technical publications and warranty department as well. In 2008, Lotus released the supercharged Elise. This was based on the 2ZZ engine with a Magnuson supercharger fitted that took the horsepower up from 190 to 220. It did make a big difference to the car. There was a couple of other limited editions and a couple of limited edition Exceeds as well. So that's 2008 out of the way. We'll now move on to 2009. There was quite a few interesting things going on in 2009 with myself and at Lotus as well.